Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Let's welcome today's speaker, Robin.
Hi, my name is Robin and I'm an alcoholic. Hey now. Ed, thank you very much for asking me to come here. It is truly an honor and a privilege to share in the rooms of AA. And if you are new, I welcome you. We welcome you. We are not a glum lot. So stay. You've earned your chair. Stay in it, okay? So if you are new, it is kind of weird, though, when you first walk into the rooms of AA, okay? Let's be clear. You people come up to you, they are like so nice, they smell fairly well, you know, and they want to shake your hand, and they ask you questions like, you know, what step are you on? And, you know, the only step I knew at that time was the Santa Monica steps, and I'm like, as you can see, I haven't been there, so, you know, I'm like, and then they would ask you, like, you know, who's your sponsor? And I was like, you know, I'm from Missouri, honey, and the only sponsors we had back then are race cars. And I'm like, I don't know, you know, so it was confusing to me, you know. So when they talked about these steps and all these things, it was confusing. But what I could understand when I first walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous was what it was like. That was the time where I could sit in a chair for an hour and I could laugh at some of the things that I had done, and I could cry at some of the things that I had done. And what Alcoholics Anonymous did for me is let me sit there for just a moment while my heart, with all that ice around it, just melted just a smidgen, and hope came in. Alcoholics Anonymous has always given me hope. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous has never lied to me. People in the room have, but the big book has not. So I strongly suggest, before you go home today, that you pick up two things, a directory and a big book, because they will save your little butt. All right, so before we get started on that journey of what it was like, I want you to look at something real quick, okay? Do you see this? This is my hair. I washed it last night, okay? I am manied, I am pettied. Okay, this, where is it? Is a bra. I'm wearing it, okay? I stand before you in an upright position with clean panties on, okay? Because that's not how I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, okay? I had Vicks Vapor Rub as hair gel. And you wonder, how do you do that? Well, I am a girl looking for solutions. The big book talks about it. We are in solution. I just didn't know my solutions weren't that good, you know? And I'm a garden variety drunk. I love alcohol. I love it. But I'm also, I don't know that I have a disease. I don't know that it's progressive. It doesn't get any better. It gets worse. I don't know these things until I come into the rooms of AA. I don't know that my disease is in between my ears and my thinking. I don't know any of that. And I have no idea that I'm allergic to alcohol. So those last couple of years, I dry heaved between an hour and a half every morning before I went to work. Now, when you dry heave between an hour and a half every time you get up in the morning, it cuts into your bathing time, okay? So what do? You can't go to work smelling like booze, right? So what do? You go through the powders, and you go through the sprays, and you go through the hairspray, and you go through the gels, and you go through everything, and you look in that cupboard, and guess what? In the corner over there is a jar of Vicks Vapor Rub. And what do? You unscrew the top of that thing, you stick your hand in there, you put that up on your chest right here. You haven't washed your hair in a couple of months, you got some left over, you put that up like this, you put it in a ponytail, you pop a Hall's cough drop, and you go to work. And that's how I used to start my day. You know, again, I don't know I'm an alcoholic. I just don't understand what's going on in my life. And, you know, I live off Sunset Boulevard, and let me tell you, there was some fun times up and down that. You're looking for love on Sunset Strip, you know, but I'm a blackout drinker, so I don't realize in a year's time they've 86 me from every bar on Sunset, and every Friday night I go back down there, and every night they say, keep walking, honey. And I just think they're mean. I'm a blackout drinker. I don't know. I will share one story with you because we're short on time here. Because there's a few. I went to the House of Blues. And I dropped a name because I knew someone back then. And then I walked up there, and I was sitting there, and I was having a little couple cocktails, and I was starting to have strong conversation with another woman in there. And this man walked up to me, and he said, you know, you look like you would like to go to a private party. And I said, well, I would love to go to a private party. And he put his arm out. I put my arm in. We sashayed down the hall. He opened the door. He twirled me. The door closed. I'm outside. So what's a girl to do when she's 86 in every bar on Sunset? She goes home and she drinks. Because, see, I haven't put the connection together that first drink causes the action to happen. I don't know these things. And so I do. For the last 2 years of my drinking, I sat on the right-hand side of my couch and I drank. And I drank a fifth of vodka from 7 p.m. till 11 p.m. And when I was done with that vodka, I would throw the bottle behind the couch. And guess what? It got full. And then it went to the right side. And then it went to the left side of the couch. And then the bottle started smearing out into the living room. There was a path this wide into my kitchen. And the only reason why I could walk in there is because I needed to get the vodka out of the freezer. But every pot, pan, Tupperware container, knife, fork, spoon, you name it, it is dirty and it is not in any cabinet. When I sit on the coffee table and I look, if something starts moving there, I just pick up whatever it is and I throw it away. When I come home from work, I strip my clothes off. Wherever they fall, that's where they stay. The only reason why I have clean clothes at this point is because I roll them up in a ball, and this little man comes on Tuesdays and dry cleans them and delivers them on Thursdays. But guess what? He doesn't dry clean bras, panties, or socks, so I quit wearing them. And you know, my mama didn't bring me up that way. You know? And I don't know when it became normal for me to live in filth. And I don't know when it became normal for me not to have sheets on my bed. And I don't know when it became normal for me not to get my own mail. And that was my life. And every morning I would get up and I would promise myself I would not drink. And every night I did. Holiday weekend came and went, and I drank and I passed out, and I drank and I passed out. And I woke up and I realized I knew I'd missed a couple of days of work. And so I had to find the phone because I have to hide it from myself. And I call the operator, who is a complete stranger to me, and I lie to this woman, and I tell her I'm homesick with the flu. And can she tell me what day it is? And she does, and then I have to ask her if it's AM or PM, because I've sat in that apartment all by myself for that holiday weekend, and I've cried. And my eyes are so swollen that I can't see out of them. And she tells me, and then I realize I have missed a couple of days of work. And so what do? Like any good alcoholic, I start thinking of a story. And I practice and I rehearse that lines of what I'm going to say to that poor man on the other end of the phone. And you know what? It took me a bit, and I finally called work. And you know what happened? The strangest thing happened to me. the words that I had rehearsed, they didn't come out of my mouth. Instead, I said, I'm in trouble. And I don't know what to do. And I need some help. And I blacked out. And at 5th of September 2002, at 11 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang, and it was Human Resources, and they said, Robin, can you come into work tomorrow? We want to help you. And I said, absolutely, I will be there. And I didn't drink the 5th of September 2002 because I wanted to get sober. I didn't drink that day because I didn't want to go into work the following day with alcohol on my breath when they fired me. That was my thinking. And you know what? They didn't. They asked me instead to go talk to this man named Rick L. Rick L is my Eskimo. And it took me forever and a day, but I finally walked into his audio bay, and I sat there and I looked at him, like this. And normally I'm not a fighter, but I was ready. Because you know why? Because I've been asked over and over a question that I cannot answer. And that question is, why do you do what you do? And I was ready for a fight. And you know what? Rick didn't do that. Rick turned around and he pulled out the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he opened it to chapter 2, the solution. And the first word of that is we. And he invited me to a meeting. And for some reason, and I don't know why, I said yes. And he told me the meeting, and I said, I don't know where that is. And he drew me a map. And I went on that Friday night to that meeting. It was on a church on the corner of Melrose and Mansfield. And I went up to that little room upstairs. And there was a tiny little room, thank God. And it had this podium, and behind it was a picture of Jesus with his arms out like this, walking on water. And I thought, oh, shit. I wish I could tell you that I was like, whoo, but no. But what happened for me was after the meeting. You all came after me. You swarmed me. You're like, hi, what's your name? You alcoholic? You alcoholic drug addict? Is this your first time? Do you have a sponsor? Do you have a 12 and 12? Do you have a big book? And I was like, whoa. And I started backing up, and I started walking down those stairs, and I went over to Rick, and I said, Rick, thank you very much. I'm going to go home now. And he said, no, we fellowship. And I go, no. I have lots of things to do. And he said, shut up and get in the car. And I don't know why, but I did. That first night, was my very first sober meal. I had mashed potatoes and iced tea. I could not hold the glass of iced tea with one or two hands, so they scooted it down to the end of the table and put a straw on it. And they finally gave me a spoon because I kept flipping the mashed potatoes off the fork, And I was green and I was sick, and I kept looking, and it just seemed like that table was forever and ever and ever. And I noticed, I was like, whoa, look, there's men, And I was like, whoa. And then I looked down at the end, and there was a salt and pepper daddy. And I was like, wow, maybe I should wash the Vicks out of my hair, And just so you know, I was a little cloudy when I came into the room of Alcoholics Anonymous. It took me 2 weeks to figure out all those men were gay. But see, I have the best God of all. God knew exactly what he was doing, because he put me in a room full of men who do not desire the weapons of love. And so all I could do was study the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that started my journey. Before I went home that night, they gave me those two things I suggested to you. They gave me a big book, and they gave me a directory. And they told me where I was going to be that Saturday. They told me where I was going to be on that Sunday. And they told me I was coming back to that church on Monday. And you know what? I went home and I collapsed. And I woke up and I looked around for the first time in my life, and I saw how I was living. You could not see any floor except for the little pathways to the bathroom and to the kitchen. And for some reason or another, I started bagging bottles, and I started throwing bottles in the trash. And then I went to that Saturday meeting, and I walked up those steps at a log cabin. And yes, there is a log cabin in Los Angeles. And I walked up there, and I looked, and everyone seemed to know each other, and they were talking with each other. And I was like, I don't know any of these people, and I don't feel good, and my stomach's upset, and I'm shaking. And I look, and I'm just about to turn when this woman goes, hi, I'm Susan. Welcome to AA. and I stayed. See, Susan had the greeting commitment. Susan saved my life that day. I went in, I sat down, and I've been to AA. I have not left since then because someone honored their commitment. So here I am, I'm bagging bottles, and I'm going to these meetings, and I went to work, and I was there early on Monday, and I went to the meeting Monday night, and I come home from fellowship, and there's a trash chute in my apartment complex, and you know where that trash chute is? If you open up my front door and you take 2 steps, that's where it is. For 2 years, I couldn't take those 2 steps. And there was masking tape that said, do not put trash in chute. Filled to 3rd floor. I had dumped so many liquor bottles that I had filled it from the basement up to the 3rd floor, honey. And that's how I started my journey in AA. And they were like, these gay boys, I am so forever grateful for those beautiful men and women of West Hollywood. I cannot thank you enough. They were like, they called me Princess, and they were like, okay, Princess, we're getting busy. We got Miss Big Book, and you got to get 3 commitments, you know. And what was your first meeting? Oh, well, the Friday night. Then you're the water girl. And then the second commitment. Well, if we don't know you, if you don't know us, we don't know you. So you're gonna greet, you know. And then I was the list girl, the phone list girl. And I was 39 years old when I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I did not know how to say hi to someone, and someone taught me that. And I had to be here 45 minutes before the meeting started, no chewing gum, no smoking on the steps, and you say hi, and you don't wait for somebody else. And that's what I did. They started noticing, though, that I started prowling my hands a lot when I was shaking people's hands. And so, you know, they got around me and they circled me, and they're like, what's up? What's up, Princess? What's up? And I'm like, nothing. And they're like, no, what's up? We don't have secrets. And the truth of the matter was I was scared because when I came into the rooms of AA, I was covered from head to toe with ringworm. And I was afraid that if I shook your hand, I would give it to you. And I knew I had to have a commitment, and I didn't know what to tell anybody because I was afraid if I shared that with you, you would ask me to leave. And they looked at me and they said, oh, Princess, just call the doctor. And I was like, oh, I never thought of that, you know? Well, here's the deal. My doctor at the time was named Dr. Heisinger, and when I was 85 pounds, I called him for a weight loss product. And he hung up on me. So I didn't know how I was going to be able to call him. And they kept asking me, have you called? Have you called? Have you called? We're in program of action. Have you called? Have you called? Have you called? So, you know, I did the next best thing. I called my cat's vet. I called Chester's vet, Dr. Fisher, and I said, Dr. Fisher, Chester has ringworm, and he needs some medicine. And Dr. Fisher's like, really? And I go, yeah. And he's like, you know it's ringworm? I go, yes, I do. And he's like, well, where is it? I go, it's on my legs. And there was a pause. And I took a deep breath, and I go, Dr. Fisher, I'm in an anonymous program, and I have to shake hands on a Sunday at 10 o'clock, and I have to be there, and I have to be there 45 minutes beforehand. And they told me I had to do it, you know? And there was this pause. And Dr. Fisher said, okay. You can come pick up Chester's medication. Chester needs to apply it twice a day for 2 weeks. If Chester's not better by those 2 weeks, he has to find another doctor. Now, why would I share that story with you? That's just downright embarrassing, right? Because you know why? I was willing. Did I do it perfectly? No. But that's what this program's all about. I was willing to take faith from somebody else that if I made this call, things would work out. See, I didn't know how to do that, but I was willing to try. And that's what the book of Alcoholics Anonymous is all about. It's a spiritual and an emotional discovery. You know, I'm not going to do it perfectly, but I was willing to try. So I got my little stuff together, and I started doing the step work here and what we do. And next thing you know, they want to come over to my house, you know, and watch TV. And I'm like, no. And they're like, why not? And I go, no. And they're like, no secrets. So again, in tears, I said, well, the only thing I've been able to do in the last 6 months is to get the liquor bottles out. I haven't been able to put sheets on my bed or clean my house, do my laundry. The only reason why I started wearing panties again because it made me go to Victoria's Secrets and get some. And I said, and you can't come because it's filthy. And they said, that's okay, Robin. We're coming over to help you. And 3 members of Alcoholics Anonymous did that. They came in. I have a 1-bedroom apartment, tiny little apartment. They came in 11:30 in the morning, and at 11 o'clock at night, we'd fill the dumpster again, and we'd only clean the kitchen and the living room. We found $400. And about 10 what are those things for the tax people? That's another story. You know, and then they came back the following weekend and we did the bedroom and the kitchen. And what do you do? How do you say thank you to that? They said that's called paying it forward.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
And one of these days, you'll be able to help a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's why I do this today. So I'm coming along and I'm doing well, and I get the 365 and I take the candle, and my mom flies in and she gives her firstborn her first cake. And I want you to tell you that I didn't care for that woman. To be honest with you, I couldn't stand her. And but you know, Alcoholics Anonymous tells me to take action and not get into my feelings so much sometimes, and that's what I did. Come 2 years sober, I still not made amends to that mama. And so when I flew home to Missouri, my sponsor at the time said, you ain't coming back until you do it. And so I did. I made amends to my mom, and she cried, and she put her head on my lap, and she said, Robin, all I want to do is be in your life. And I want you to know, when she said that, I didn't have that aha moment. I was like, oh my God. But see, what Alcoholics Anonymous has told me is to keep taking the action. And so when I got back home, I called her once a week, and sometimes the conversations were 30 seconds, sometimes they were 60 seconds, sometimes they were 2 minutes. Little by little, I remembered to send her flowers for her birthday. Little by little, I called her to say Happy Mother's Day. Little by little, all the blame that I had between her and I, between the 10 steps that I was doing, and be giving it and put it in my God box, and being kind and loving, all that blame went away. Did my mama change? No. But my perception did. Again, spiritually, emotionally, physically, Alcoholics Anonymous has helped me grow into that area. So I want you to know that I started, living the life, and I started sponsoring, I started doing all this stuff, and I turned to 5 years sober, and I'm feeling the dream, and oh my God, and I meet him, and then he goes out, he smokes crack. I'm like, I go to Vaughn's and eat Pepperidge Farm oatmeal cookies, and I cry for months how I'm so lost without him, and that's what we do. We come in here and we share it all, the good, the pretty, the ugly, it's all there. We share it all. And you know what? But what I started not doing is I started not picking up the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I didn't start reading it for me. See, I can't give something away I don't have, right? So I quit going to the book studies, and I quit, I just went to circuit speakers meetings and all that, and looked fabulous and all that. But you know what? I started dying on the inside, and I'm here with all these boys, and all of a sudden I'm in my 40s, and things are changing for me, and I don't know how to tell someone these things. And so I was starting, what do I call that, dry, drunk, resentful. Oh God, here she goes, up here at the podium one more time. That kind of thing. Keep coming back, girl. Not nice. But on the outside, I look great. And one night, on a Friday night, the one thing that I had been taught from the very beginning is to keep my feet and move into a meeting of alcoholics regardless of my head or my heart. And so I was at this meeting with my arms like this, and this woman sashayed up with a little bitty skirt and high heels, and she said her name was Quincy W. And she talked about that resentment she had in the rooms of AA, and she talked about the scary lady who helped her walk through the steps and how her life changed. And I followed her to a meeting on a Thursday night. And it's a big book study. And I took the courage to take that step and ask her to be my sponsor. In 8.5 years of sobriety, I started all over, and I didn't have to go out and use to do it. And I found God in my heart again. I still have issues where I struggle with the trust. My friend Lulu says, I believe in God. I would just like to have an itinerary ahead of time, That trust stuff is hard. And you know what? She's helped me connect the dots. She's showed me what it boils down to is those fears. Why I react the way I did. I have old beliefs that no longer work for me, but that's what I know. And I go back to what I know. And Alcoholics Anonymous helps me connect the dots to show me how I can change. My perception can alter. But I can't do it if I don't start trusting in something bigger and better than me. So I stand here before you with 13 years of sobriety. I can tell you my mama's favorite color is purple. I spent Thanksgiving with her. I love and adore her. With 13 years of sobriety, last year I had been in a 2-year relationship. I thought we were going to go and live, the dream of all dreams. And I signed this little form to help him out, and he left me holding the bill with a business. With 13 years of sobriety. Just because you walk into these rooms doesn't mean that you're going to live on a hill with a picket fence with a car, and you know what I mean? That's not what this is about. I was so embarrassed with 13 years of sobriety that I didn't want to tell my sponsor and my family. But see, that's just it. I finally shared that, and they hugged me, and they said, oh, girl, I've done worse than that. And you know what? They helped me pick up the pieces, and they helped me walk through that. I did not do that alone. But I didn't give up. I deserve love. I can give love, and I deserve love. And so I will not give up. I am very blessed to be with Quincy. This February, we're going to San Francisco. It is called Legacy Weekend. Her sponsor, her sponsor, her sponsor, and her sponsor. We all meet, and everybody that's in the family, we go for a weekend retreat. I didn't have one girlfriend when I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, let alone start to call people and trust and share things with. Not one girlfriend. I lived alone. I ran my whole life just to be still. The thing I've always wanted was family and love. And I have found that in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I cannot thank you enough for asking me to be here and letting me share my silly little story with you. So thank you. Oh, Lord.
On your right.
What, we want... Oh, hi.
Thanks for sharing. What did you find most helpful in your first year?
The question is, what did I find most helpful in my first year? Well, Alcoholics Anonymous is a very structured program. And I didn't even know what that word was, and I can still tell you I don't know how to spell the word balance, you know? So what it was is that it helped me. I had to find someone to talk to. And once I got to the meetings, I truly believe that I was introduced to someone else. They said, don't go anywhere alone, you'll get a posse. And so they introduced me to one other person, and I started going to meetings every single night. If I worked in post-production, and I worked 9 to 9 sometimes, so I would double up on the weekends. But doing this with someone else really helped me walk through that at the very beginning. The book and all that shenanigans, I was like, yeah, no. But to get my feet and move into the rooms was something, because at nighttime I drank. And that was my scary time, you know? And so I would go to the 7 or 8 o'clock meetings, and I would go, and then I would fellowship afterwards. And so by the time I got home, it was 11 or 12 o'clock at night. And then I would chain smoke, you know, till 3 or 4 in the morning before I passed out for 20 minutes, you know? And I drank Coca-Colas like there was no tomorrow. I didn't know that when I was without alcohol, it was sugar. And so I didn't know that Tootsie Rolls. Does that kind of help there? Okay.
What did you do with all the W-2s and the IRS?
What did I do with all those lovely little W-2s? Well, all right. So I was told I had to clean that up, that the government deserves their money. And I had, I think, 14 of them. So someone at work said that they had a tax guy, and so I called and made an appointment. And it took me a couple of weeks before I could get the nerve to do that, and I did. And so I had to call my sponsor on the way there. I got out of my car. I was terrified. I got back in my car. I called, and they said, get up there. So I went up there, and he said, be truthful with the man. So what I did is I went in, and I laid them all out on the table, and I said, I haven't done this for a while. I've been drinking a lot, and I need some help. And he's like, wow. And he's like, okay. So he worked it out. I didn't owe the government any money. I lost $40,000. And I wrote a check to that man, and I said, thank you very much. And I walked out to my car, and I threw up on my shoes. I just want you to know that I have in my sobriety done that again, where I don't keep up on it. Procrastination and sloth is one of my biggest defects of character. I have a thing we do every year in my group where we write down our ideals. And some of my projects are like simple, like water my plants. Like it's, you know, I have issues with that. That is where I fall and stumble. So, but I'm so far today, I am current. I'm current. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Can you talk about your spiritual practices in the morning, your 11th step, preferably?
I've had a really hard time with prayer and meditation. Oh, my spiritual practices in the morning, 11th step. I grew up in the Midwest, and I have taken those old ideas and beliefs that, you know, that I'm a horrible, evil, hateful woman. You know, I'm a heathen child and Jezebel, and I'm going to burn at the stake, you know. And I've taken that into my sobriety, you know, and you know, when I had to write down about my own God, you know, it was this concept that blew my mind, and it was terrifying to me. And so someone in the rooms asked me what I liked the most about AA, and I said, I love the laughter. And then they said, well, your God's a humorous God. And that's how I started that journey. And so I started in the mornings, and I still do this, and laugh all you want, but I get down on my knees and I go, hi God, it's me, Robin, and can you help me today? It's a simple little thing. I learned that in the structure of when I was brand new. I was told to do that in the morning, regardless of who I believed or what I was saying. And then at night, I get on my knees and I go, God, it's me, Robin. Thank you for today. Even when I don't understand it, thank you for today. In the mornings, I I tried that whole meditation thing, you know, and I was told that prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening to God. And so I realized I'm a horrible listener. So, but I tried all the little things that many people do. You know, I was told to get a candle, get a timer for 2 minutes, light the candle, you know, and do the breathing. So I did that when I was newly sober, and I kept closing my eyes thinking, why do I have my eyes closed with a lit candle? I'm going to catch my hair on fire, you know. So, you know, that didn't work too well. Then at my first year of sobriety, I got these meditation cards, and those went in the drawer. And those have popped out of the drawer, and there's one card in there. I just look at them in the morning, and there's one card, and it says to focus in your tummy. Well, they don't say tummy, but I say tummy. Of light. You know, and just light coming out, you know, and so, you know, call me whatever you want, but I've done that a little bit. But the most thing I have found for me is in the morning, I like baths. I take baths, and I turn the water on, and I let the water run on my toes. And I just close my eyes, and I just take a couple of deep breaths. And for me, that is my meditation. Don't leave me hanging up here, folks. Yes, sir.
You talked a little bit about accountability, like paying taxes and stuff like that. Can you maybe talk about that a little more and how you, day to day, try and become more and more accountable?
Again, I think the getting my feet a moving. Oh, okay. The question is how to be more accountable in my day-to-day life. Would you say that? Is that kind of okay? It is, you know, every day is different. Are we talking newly sobriety or today? Today? Well, again, in my group today, we have these things called ideals, and we have projects and changes and goals and I wishes and I wants. Okay, and we have done that the whole time I've been with Miss Quincy, and it's amazing. At first, I wrote all these things because we share them in our group. We call us Sisters of the Traveling Skirts because when we're in front of the meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, we show respect by being, you know, dressed appropriately. And so we call ourselves the Sisters of the Traveling Skirts. And when I first came in, I didn't know how to be a girlfriend. I didn't know how to do that. So all my goals and all my ambitions and all this were fabulous, you know, but I didn't reach any of them. Okay? So today, this last January, I went and did step work with my sponsor. We were reading to the wives, which just used to bore the bejesus out of me. And I had one of those aha moments, and it was about my father. And I very rarely talk about my father. He was not a kind man. I have scars to this day, physical scars to this day from him. He was a sick alcoholic, bless his heart, you know. I don't have any ill will feeling for him because of my work with Alcoholics Anonymous. But it had brought something up. And so my sponsor asked me to write down all the things I could remember. And what we did our 6 columns through that, and I found out that some of the fears and the old behaviors that I am doing today in relationships go back to old beliefs. And I won't get into all the details with that, but I was blown away by that truth that came out from a very hard, horrible feeling. And then I realized my goals that I've been writing in front of these women aren't about to impress, they're about to achieve. I'm a slow learner. So my goals this year were so amazing for me. You know, I was able to write these things down, simple little things down that I want to achieve. Not only have I done that, I put them on my mirror I have it on my mirror today. That's what I do today. Am I going to achieve all that? No. But I'm on the road to it. I'm moving forward. I'm not moving backwards. And so I think that's what I do today. There's some times where I get all discombobulated about where's mine and what's happened and life's not fair. And, you know, Quincy tells me, you're right, life's not fair. Fair's in Pomona for 2 weeks, you know? And so I get to look daily at those simple little things. Water my plants. Honey, you should see them right now. They're not pretty. But you know what? Well, one of them was to wash my face. I don't wash my face. So guess what? This whole week I've done that. Laugh all you want, but those are big things, because if I can't take the baby step, I can't take the big step. Last question.
That's all, Quincy.
Oh,
That's
Robin.
That's all, Robin.
Boom, done. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.